All right, we're here, fan to fan combat. We're here with Jackson Hoops, and Jackson Hoops is the cage announcer for the Fierce Fighting Championship. And Jackson, thanks for being here. Really appreciate you taking time to talk with us. What you do is really cool, being the announcer in the cage. And I was just wondering, I guess, how did you gain that position, or what background do you have in MMA that led you to want to be a cage announcer? Or how'd that come to be?
The only background I have is just being a fan. I've watched it ever since UFC came out, probably around, well, probably not when it came out, but the early years. And then I'd never have gone to a gym. You know, I wrestled like in 7th grade, but that's pretty much the only MMA I've got going on, other than like we talked about earlier, the hoops is. You pronounced hoops right, which was awesome, but Star Valley, Wyoming style. But yeah, we didn't wrestle too much like my cousins, but I just studied and watched MMA and UFC on my own, you know, just hanging out when everybody's going to bed. I'll just watch the fights in the evenings, and then moved here to Utah, and I was in an insurance agent's office with Zach Partridge, and he's the matchmaker, and he's been starting to take over the Fierce promotion a little bit here in Utah. So he also fights for One Hit MMA, or he did fight for One Hit MMA and trains there, and he just knew I was a goofball, loud, and I could make it happen. He knows I perform and do music and drums and all those sorts of things, and he said, you know, you're gonna go be our cage announcer. I said, all right, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So it was cool. It was a great opportunity. Kind of just fell in my lap. So you don't come across those very often. But other than that, MMA background, there's really none. Just a fan of the sport, man. It's awesome.
That's awesome. So what is your process in terms of preparing for a fight night, in terms of preparing for a card? How do you get yourself ready? What is the preparation like?
Yeah, it's a lot of sleepless nights, but on my own brain that's doing it, because I'll lay in bed and I'll just think of, oh, we should do this, or I could say this next time, and then I'll just kind of keep going down rabbit holes. But pretty much my process, I just have to hold a mic. So my big thing is I just create a roster, a card of my own, similar to Bruce Buffer when you see him holding the cards. I create a little script, and it's really neat because in January of last year, I sat behind like the table cage side with no suit and just held the microphone, and that was my first time ever doing it. And from there, I just was like, all right, now I've got a feel for it. Now we're going to make sure and prep the right way and do it like Bruce, do it with a little twist of my own, you know, and I was able to at least figure out my own little script. But now my prep work isn't really as detailed as Blake's and everybody else's that have to do, you know, the commentating. I really just focus on the fighters' names. I'll follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and get in touch with them. But then I will go at the weigh-ins the night before. I meet with them face to face, which is really cool because I'm like a fan, and I'm like, hey, can I have your autograph? But it's really cool to hang out with them, and they do their weigh-ins. I can get their exact weights, but my main thing is making sure I get their pronunciations right on their names. Their cage names are the funnest part about it. And then that night is usually, I always tell myself I'm going to type up everything in advance, but really until I get the names and the weights, I type everything up, finish it all off that night before, and then it's showtime the next day. So we usually have the weigh-ins right before the day of the fights. So yeah, not much prep work other than just what's in my head, and I go down rabbit holes and think too much about it, and I just need to go out and make it happen. But it's a great opportunity. It's fun to be with those guys in the MMA community here. Utah is awesome. So
yeah, for sure. And I feel like sometimes some of the biggest moments, like as far as crowd anticipation and everything, is when, you know, the cage announcer is in there announcing the fighters' names. Like you watch the UFC, you know, Bruce Buffer's in there yelling, and just the anticipation because, you know, not knowing what's gonna happen, that moment's just like crazy. So I guess from someone who's done that firsthand, how does that feel when you're at just, you know, a big fight, the main event, announcing the names and getting all into it? What's that feeling like? Because it looks awesome.
It's intense, and you'll see if you've listened to the fights or heard it, you've probably heard my voice already gone by like fight 3. It's like already starting to tail off, and I'm like, oh man, I should have been able to hold in a little bit, but it's hard to hold it in and wait for that main event, because I always want to get loud every single time. But the Maverick Center is amazing when the crowd, it bounces off the rafters. But we were talking, even before the podcast, that you guys went to that one in Orem at the high school, and having that close impact crowd there, it's a thrill. It's something that we've done just as kids growing up, perform on stage a lot of times, performed on the football field and basketball, so you're just used to that crowd. You eat it up. If you don't hear a crowd, that means you're probably performing badly, so you got to eat it up and perform well. And again, it's not anything that, I'll get the crowd hyped up and I'll yell my phrase, make some noise, and see how their energy is doing, but it's mostly for the next fighter coming back or coming out in the fights. And we're going to change it up a little bit. Like we've done it before with me announcing the name of the fighter and then bring them out with the song, but we're going to switch it up in Idaho Falls, and we're going to bring out the fighter like they do it, in the UFC. We're going to announce it in the cage while they're both face to face. So we're going to make that happen, and I think that's going to hype the crowd up and the fighters more, because then it doesn't kind of go like, Kellen Hansen, right? Yeah, Kellen Hansen, and then you bring your music in and it kind of dies down the crowd. We want the crowd hyped up, and then boom, round one, let's go. So that's going to be fun. That's going to be, and that's kind of just how we've been with Fierce, is we're finding those new things to add to it, change, twist, and tweak here and there, and it's coming together. It's coming together, and it's going to be fun. You guys got to get to Idaho Falls.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that you kind of talk about it as a performance, because I think everybody kind of pictures in their mind, man, if I were to do it, I would do it this way, I'd do it this way. But it's got to be completely different when you're in the cage and you've got thousands of eyes on you and the lights are shining bright. Do you just have to view it like that, like this is a performance? And you've mentioned you kind of had a background in the past with performing and competing in sports. What's the mentality that you have to have as you go in there to keep yourself composed and to make it an experience that the fans are going to enjoy, that's going to help the fighters feel more ready and more prepared for the fight?
Yeah, the fans will definitely feed off you, and even the fighters. Even when I go into weigh-ins, they're coming up to me and talking with me, and they show so much respect. If I even just at weigh-ins, I'm just like, hey, my name's Jackson, I'd like to pronounce your name correctly. What is it? It just starts from there. The whole vibe is just, if you're going to do it, you're going to do it right and do it correct. And so even at the weigh-ins, I'll get them excited to even just meet me, and because I'm excited to meet them, and that gives them that push, like, oh, he's going to announce my name. And then after the fight, the couple of the fighters will come back and just be like, man, I might have lost, or it might have been not the greatest fight, but thank you for calling it out. It got me hyped up. But regarding, the lights and performing and staying in the zone, it's really, I kind of talked about it before, where something's always going to happen. Something's going to be goofy. I'm going to possibly announce a fighter wrong who won when they actually lost, something like that. I think I said goodness gracious I messed up and said, oh, goodness gracious on the microphone. And it's just a matter of how you play it off. I even grew up watching Jim Carrey and improv comedy and all that stuff, and that kind of kicks in. If I make a mistake, you could easily freeze up and walk off the stage, but it's like, nah, we're gonna play it off, and we're gonna, whatever stutter or whatever mistake I made, I'm gonna make up for it with making some noise. And so it really you just got to get rid of the jitters. And I like the lights sometimes because you can't really see the crowd. They shine right in. If you've ever been on a stage, they shine right at your eyeballs, and you can't see out past anything. So that takes away from any eye contact or any nervousness that way with somebody maybe making faces at you or whatever. But the MMA family and community and the fans, you'll get rowdy fans that do their talking to fighters or talking to other fans in there, but really for the most part, they know what they're there for. They know how it works, and when I say make some noise, they're gonna do it, and they have a blast doing it. And they're just, I don't know, they just feed off of them. That's the best part.
And I feel like we jumped the gun a little bit. We didn't really give information about your background, and it actually got me curious because I know that you have like music in your background you've mentioned before. And based on when we watched the fight in Orem, I could tell that you were really comfortable in there and knew what you were doing. I guess just tell us about your background. Do you have like history of like performance in music? And if so, how has that, I guess, helped you?
I would have to say, starting from piano lessons. I mean, I play guitar and drums. I look at a guitar fretboard, and I see black and white keys instead of an actual fretboard. And it started probably from there, because when you do piano, you have to do a piano recital, and you have to do it in front of everybody. Even in church, we would perform in our primary program. We would perform even speaking, giving talks and things like that. But those sorts of things, that the more and more you're just out in public and performing, it's just flows. It's almost like an itch that you have to scratch. It's almost like, man, I want to go and perform for a crowd. I mean, show choirs and concert choirs, I think from junior high to senior in high school, I was in a total of 11 choirs in those 6 years, from 7th to senior. So it's just constantly putting on the show and putting on a performance, and then you bring in the sports aspect to it, and you got to make the crowd go nuts when you're getting those W's and getting those wins and getting those comebacks. So it's just kind of always been a part of us, at our family at least. If something of a dance routine or a piano recital, or going and playing on the field. So I don't know.
I'm glad Brady brought that up, because one of my favorite moments of the card in October in Orem was the national anthem, because you sang the national anthem, and at first when you said you were going to sing it, we were like, man, this is interesting. And then you sang, and we were all super impressed. We were like, this guy does it all. I mean, he's out there singing, and then he's doing the commentating.
Now you got me blush. I forgot.
No, it was awesome for anybody who's watching this. We actually commented, that was really good. That was really cool, because it's not every day that you see somebody that is so involved in a promotion do something like that and do it so well. But I think it just shows how balanced you are, and you truly are bringing your talents to this job.
No, that's exactly right. I've talked to Zach about it a few times, and about like the national anthem, and that's one of my prep things, is who's going to announce or sing, so I can announce them as the fighter. And there's been a few times where we just haven't had somebody sing, but Nicole Funga, she's kind of our main gal right now that's been singing, but she was fighting that night. And it was just that from day one, when I did the very first show, I think we played the national anthem, but I told him, I said, if you ever need me to sing it, I'll be able to do it on the spot. And that goes all the way back to Little League Baseball. My dad, and if you're watching this, I mean, his goal one day is to sing the national anthem. I don't know if it's a goal or a want or whatever, sing the national anthem at a baseball game, just an opening ceremonies at Little League or whatever, whether it's just chilling in the local games, or he goes to the Western Regionals and works with those. He's a district manager there, and then he goes to the Little League World Series every year. And his dream is just to go sing the national anthem. And we've always done it. Our basketball games, we're standing there in our basketball uniforms, and we're standing, we're with the other cheerleaders that are in our choir, and we go sing the national anthem, and then we go play ball and get a W. So it's just something that's always there. And if any American is out there that doesn't know all the lyrics to that song, that's a shame. It doesn't mean you have to go and perform it whenever, but man, learn the lyrics, because you never know when. And I remember working at the office during Little League tournament. My dad texted me or something. He said, hey, can you take lunch off? We've got a game coming up, and our national anthem backed out. And I just drove, and that's in Little Laramie, Wyoming, where it's 5 minutes away, but you just drive down to the field and busted out the national anthem, shook some hands, and then just went back to the office and started working. So it is, man. If you're used to that though too, I mean, it is scary if you're just thrown into it and you don't know what's going on. But if you're used to that flow and you're used to oh, I can do that too. And I think even that night we were having music issues because we didn't have DJ Dre Rocca there with us. So I was doing it from my phone with Amy. She was doing it from an iPad and our computer. And that glitched a few times, but it still pulled it off. We got to play some rock and roll that time. And I don't know, it's just something that it's also fun. It's a challenge. It's a challenge to be like, can I do that too? Let me see if I can do the music and sing. And I don't know, it's fun. It's
awesome.
Yeah, I'm glad Kellen brought that up because that was super impressive. We were both just blown away. I was like, this guy's the Cage announcer, now he's singing the national anthem. What can't he do?
Well, did you hear Nicole's family? I was like, well, we have Nicole. We have Nicole Funga, and they all went nuts. And I was like, she's not singing, but I'm singing. But that was kind of cool. And their family, she's got a great family, and super proud of her. But yeah, it was fun to do it that night.
Shout out Nicole.
Yeah, for sure, man. She does a great job. Yeah.
For sure. So earlier you mentioned how you were a fan of MMA, and that's kind of why you might have been interested in taking this gig. So MMA has been growing in the world, ever since the pandemic. You kind of saw the UFC just power through it, and I feel like a lot of fans grew at that time. That's kind of when Kellen and I started to become really big fans because we're like, there's no other sports to watch. Let's start getting into MMA.
Perfect. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. But as far as the kind of regional scene here and Fierce Fighting Championship, how do you see this area? Does it seem to be growing, or I guess what does it look like here?
Yeah, I don't know for sure. I can't answer it because I'm seeing it grow in my own eyes in a way. Like well, for one, I know it's growing. We have a lot of couple promotions here in Utah. I can't remember how many for sure we have. If we still have one down south or what, but. There's you go to any gym and the amount of youth that are signing up for MMA and going to classes and going to the gym, it's just continuing to grow and grow and grow. And so you already can tell that the MMA scene is growing that way, but when we're talking about actual fighters that are moving up and getting to that professional level and moving up and going to the UFC, we were talking Bellator, PFL, any of those types of promotions, or just out of state to any other local state promotions, the smaller ones. That's I've seen that, and I've only done the MMA scene here in Utah with Fierce for just this last year, but I've already met some fighters that, hey, 2 fights ago you were an AMI and now you're a pro, or hey, you were only a 2-0 pro, now you're going for a belt, and Saguku Amarsana, I mentioned him before on the other podcast, but like that, he's going for a belt again. It's this in Idaho Falls, and I had met him, and he wasn't really. I mean, he's a great fighter, but I didn't know him at all. To be able to watch him progress. Joel Haro is going to be a name to remember. He's fighting for the belt in Idaho Falls, so I'm watching it just like you guys going in the MMA scene. We're just Wyoming boys, man. We didn't have this. We had the Neil Hoopses and Gary Hoopses tugging on our ears and pounding us in the face, We had that stuff going on. We didn't have the MMA, so it's exciting for us, and it's cool that you guys got into it during the pandemic, because that was when we needed sport. We needed something. We needed teams, and we didn't have teams. But the whole MMA community became a team during that. So,
and it's almost like you could feel the MMA community starting to grow slowly here in Utah. And people don't realize that there's actually some top level fighters that have competed in the UFC. Guys like Court McGee that has a gym here in Utah.
Yes, sir.
Guys like Bobby Maximus, who's on The Ultimate Fighter. Caitlin Neal.
Yeah.
And so you have these fighters that are pretty well known in the MMA community, maybe not here in Utah, but really Utah is an ideal place to train.
Yeah.
I mean, due to elevation, and we saw when UFC 278 came to Salt Lake City, we saw that crowd come out, and we saw that atmosphere, which both of us can agree was the best atmosphere we'd ever been in for any sporting event. We went to it.
That's awesome.
So we went to it.
I'm jealous. I didn't get to go to it, so that's awesome.
But it almost feels like there's so much potential in this area for more growth in MMA. Yeah. And like you said, you have all these kids going to gyms. What do you feel about the stigma in terms of, it seems like for a long time, mixed martial arts and particularly the UFC was kind of viewed as a form of human cockfighting or something that promoted violence. But it seems like fierce fighting has kind of taken the approach of making it almost like a family friendly, safe environment and healthy environment. And you obviously play a part in that as well. But can you go into depth a little bit more about how, fierce fighting, at least in this region of the country, is promoting a shift in terms of the reputation of the sport?
Yeah, I think it has a lot to do with that when you're, and I can't really speak necessarily to gyms, and MMA, but I've seen it, how you harness that energy as a fighter to not have to use your fighting talents until you have to use them. And I mean, that's something that I can't grasp yet, and I can't even talk on about how that works in a gym and for fighters. But I can see it in that cage. I mean, you've even got it with the Pete Swazzle Utah Athletic Commission. So a lot of people don't have any idea that there's actually a commission involved, that they go walk around and look at every single bolt on the cage. They walk around and make sure the mat is laid out correctly. They make sure everything in the back regarding the testing, that the fighters have to do before and after the fights. The commission is a huge thing that keeps. We might still have a few fighters out there that are, just crazy wild and they don't care. They're just going to go in there and go ballistic. That happens. That's just how it happens with every sport. You saw the game Sunday and that, I'm tossing him to the ground. That was an MMA move, I guess, but there you go, man. It was intense. And so you're going to get some of that, like you said, barbaric, type of individuals, but you also have to have that kind of crazy in your mind if you're going to be a fighter too. But that's what the commission's there for. That's what we have those great refs there for. Fantastic judges that I've worked with as well and I've seen. And they're all just great people. And when you have all of them be able to shake hands with each other after each fight, you got a commission, bumping fists with the fighter. You've got, the judges as well. It's a really cool thing to see. So I think, and you can go onto YouTube and Google any type of fight, a backyard fight or anything. You can find that all day, all you want. But this is a whole different ball game. It is, probably a little bit more intense than backyard fighting because they are technical. They do know how to strike. They do know how to do the submissions, and so it can be probably a little bit more intense. But man, it's a good sport. They put in the effort. They put in the work. I think one of the first fighters that really I got excited about the sport, even watching too, was GSP. Watching him come up, GSP was just, and I think it was the mentality of just sport in general, the training he did. He could get beat, but he could also just go on a winning streak. But no matter what he was doing, he was still always training. It still is. He's still posting stuff about his try this challenge for the day. So I think that's what is huge. It's not just a couple guys strapping gloves on and let's see who can tough it out. These guys have put in fight camps 2 to 3 months at a time, and if I can't even talk about the fighters and what they do in their gyms because I haven't even jumped into a gym, then that's pretty intense. They're tough people. They're tough fighters and great athletes, respectful athletes too, great sportsmanship. So the trouble with Utah though, sorry if I interrupt. The trouble with Utah though is, man, they have so many gyms. So if anybody's listening, tell us which gym to go to. I'll go and I'll be like, all right, I'm going to go to this gym this week and I'm going to start. I'm going to finally start and I'm going to do some jiu-jitsu and I'm going to do some striking. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to go to this gym. But the cool thing is everybody says, try them all out. Go in and do the 7-day trial. Go in and do whatever you want. And that's just a matter of, I dunked at 40 years old. Maybe now it's time to go in and learn some jiu-jitsu. And so the cool thing is you check your ego at the door and they'll welcome you in with open arms for sure. And probably break your arm a little bit, but I got to get into it. Yeah, it's pretty cool. There's so many opportunities for gyms here.
Yeah, for sure. I especially love that, and yeah, give us gym recommendations seriously, because I'm a out of shape
Oh yeah.
25-year-old who, I have been wanting to get into jiu-jitsu for a long time, but I'm like, I'm gonna just get my butt kicked, left and right. But give us gym recommendations, please.
I think the butt kicking is the greatest. It humbles you, just like anything else. Getting humbled, and I don't want to be humbled, but once you do it, and then they pick you up off the mat and give you a hug, and you go at it again, like that's got to be a cool experience. Especially when you see your bros go to battle that you've been training with for 3 months. That's got to be a really cool experience. Even if you're not a black belt or whatever, but you've trained with them and you've let them pound on you as a sparring partner, that's got to be a cool feeling to then be like, yeah, he threw that right hook on me and he just knocked them out for the belt. Like, that would be a cool feeling, I think. So, all right, I got to get into a gym. I got to do it.
Yep. I agree with that. Completely second that. But anyways, I guess shifting the focus a little bit, I wanted to talk about the Idaho Falls fight that's coming up. I guess, do you have the exact date for that?
It is. It's next weekend, February 11th.
Next weekend. So coming right up. Why should people go to that or tune in to watch it?
Yeah, they've got to definitely pay-per-view, because it's a different ball game, because we're going to have most of the fans up there in Idaho, so we're going to have a lot of the Utah people here tuning into the pay-per-view. So in that sense, it's kind of cool, because we're still tweaking pay-per-views. We're trying to get our production, figuring out the little things that we can fix here and there. So man, I would actually love it to have everybody that doesn't go here in Utah to tune into that pay-per-view. It not only helps the fighters, of course, with sales and ticket sales and that sort of thing, and pay-per-view sales, but give us some feedback. Tell us, hey man, we like that, but this could be tweaked, or hey man, what about this? Because this promotion is going places, and it's already been here. I shouldn't say, oh, we're just starting out. It's been here and it's established, and they're rolling, and we're rolling pretty strong. We've got a great crew, great team on the sponsorship team that's starting to take that over, full steam. And that if we've got the Utah people here now watching on pay-per-view, while we actually have the Idaho fans up there, that's something that I would like to see from the Utah fans. Now for Idaho, we're gonna get crazy. You have got to get there, and it's gonna get crazy. If we get crazy at the Maverick Center, this place is a newly built facility. Idaho, there's not as much to do as there is here in Utah. I mean, you can go anywhere. You can go right now to the Vivint Arena, and there's probably something happening, jazz game or something going on. But up there in Idaho, that Maverick Center's, or Mountain America Center's built, and then we're gonna blow the roof off. Like we're gonna make it happen, and they have got to see it. But we've got to go see Joel Haro. He's fighting for the belt, and I'm gonna mess everything up here because I don't know who else we got in that main event. We got. I gotta pull it up here. Perfect. No, I'm gonna mess it up. We got Soguku Amarsana. He's on the.
That's the name I
co-main. It's a tough one. That was one of the first ones I had to do, but I still butcher it, but that's all right. All right, let me see here. I'm just looking. I got to make sure I don't mess anything up, and then I'll be quick. Because you're asking me, why are we going to see it? You guys want to go watch Joel Haro. You've got to see him on that main event. He's fighting, and I can't pronounce his name.
You'll learn
see?
it though.
Yeah, it's gonna be tricky, but... Yeah, so that's the other thing. It's Hajeh? I don't know. It's Hajeh, but I can't, and it's not in the actual comments here, so I'm messing it up. You can't be asking me that because I'm going to mess it up. But then, look, we got Amarsana against Maidadine. Like, how do you pronounce Maidadine? But I think they're all either from another state or from Idaho. But all those Idaho fighters, I'm not even going to try and attempt to pronounce their names because I don't know them, and that's why I want to go see it. That's why everybody in Utah needs to go tune in and see it, because there's fighters up there that are ready. They're biting at the bit, and they're ready to go and make a show. But there's a lot of the Utah fighters and out-of-state guys that we know, and of course you got to go watch them, Joel and Soguku. But I want to see all the other Idaho guys. You know, I don't want upsets for anybody and wish anybody bad luck, but there's going to be good fights. There's just going to be good fights all across the board for that Idaho. And the fans are already there, ready to roll. The place is almost packed, sold out, so it's going to be a blast. So
That's awesome here. And I think one thing that, needs to be said is with these MMA promotions, some of these guys that are fighting through Fierce, they're going to end up going to the highest levels of MMA. I mean, you're going to see, I think there's already alumni from Fierce in the UFC, right?
yeah, we were talking, Chris Curtis is one. I mean, of course, God, who did you just mention? Who did you just mention earlier? I don't know if he was from Fierce, though.
Oh, was it Court?
Yeah, Court McGee. I don't know if he did fight for Fierce. See, I'm gonna get beat up by Court because I see him in the cage all the time when he comes and corners those fighters. He's with Agima Jiu-Jitsu. That's where Caitlin was from. I don't know the history behind all these fighters. I'm still learning, so I can't speak to it. But a lot of alumni, Chris Curtis, and it's just something that we're not even at the, what do they call it? We're at the tip of the iceberg or something. We're ready to, I don't know. We're ready to put these guys on a platform. That's what we're doing. So they're gonna make a statement.
But it has to be cool to know that you're helping to contribute, in a step of somebody's career, because some of these fighters are going to go on and do amazing things, and you're going to have been able to have rubbed shoulders with them. So I think that's a super unique opportunity. I mean, not everybody's going to be able to say that, and as their exposure grows, Fierce Fighting's exposure is going to grow as well.
That's right.
Another question, kind of shifting gears, but you said you've been doing this for a year as a cage announcer. What are your aspirations and your goals as a cage announcer? Where do you want to take this for yourself personally? And where do you see yourself in terms of your evolution?
Yeah, I haven't had a rude awakening on that one until like this last week, really talking with you guys to do a podcast to be like, hey, all right, maybe I will do. I mean, you guys were messaging, Kellen you were messaging me in the middle of the fights, I think when it was happening. You were like, hey, this is Jackson. And we exchanged the 307 phone numbers, and I was like, sorry, I can't respond. I'm going to go and announce this guy's win really quick and come back. But I think, and Dre, our DJ at the fights with the music, he does his podcast, and I think that was, I don't know quite yet. I think the sky's the limit after talking with him and you guys. You guys are getting me all hyped up to, I probably would have said no to both you guys on doing the podcast just because I'm like, no, I don't know much about the fighters. I don't know much about fighters' history in Utah, but at the same time, it's not my promotion, and I'm not the fighter, so I can be a voice for them. I can be a voice for Fierce and help, promote it a little bit more. And along the way, if I get a chance to announce at games or announce at events or anything like that, then so be it. But man, I love being the cage announcer, but I'm a fan first and will always be. I'm just holding a mic. I'm holding the mic in there and just having a blast. I get to sit cage side and get some blood on my shirt. There's been a few times that's happened. It's awesome, and not to the expense of their blood and guts, going on, but it's real, and it's kind of a dream come true and a fantastic opportunity that I'll always thank Zach and Fierce for. I just have to hold a mic and hang out. So right now I haven't really thought about doing anything else announcing wise, but you guys have kind of kicked it in my mind to be like, okay, maybe I can do something. So it'd be fun. But until then, we're just watching and enjoying fights like you guys. That's it. We got to get you guys out there.
Yeah. For sure. And I think there's a lot of people like Kellen and I who, are fans of MMA, and, Fierce is awesome because it's giving us, a place where we can, go to in person, because we're not going to travel all around the country going to UFC events. I don't have the pockets for that, but, Fierce gives us.
I didn't go see you guys. That's cool you guys went.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. It came to like our back door here in Salt Lake, and we're like, no matter what it costs, we're gonna go. We sat clear at the top, but we were there.
I had to break down how I was gonna explain to my wife why I needed to, how I could justify those tickets.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to get the wife's approval. That's right, man. But I'm glad you guys went. That's cool.
For sure, it was super cool.
But I guess going on along with what Kellen was saying, if you've been with Fierce for about a year now, if you had to sum up the year, how would you describe it? It's kind of putting you on the spot here, but how would you describe your year?
I think just getting started. Every single show has been or a progression. Maybe I can sum it up as a progression. Every single show is a blast. Don't get me wrong. There hasn't been one show that I've been disappointed with. I don't think that anybody's just been disappointed with, maybe other than the fighters that lose and have a tough time. But like as a whole show in general, it's getting better and better. We've got to learn certain things, of course, on every person's job, what we've got to do different, but to make it flow well, where there's no hiccups, where it is just a great show for the fighters and show for the fans, where they don't have actually one thing that did happen was it in November? We did it. No, I don't think we did a show in November or December. We didn't. We did a show in October. Or maybe we did one. We did October Orem show, but then right after that,
end of October, I think there was the Mavericks.
Okay, it was either I think that's right. It was like 2 weeks in, but that show didn't start for 42 minutes because right as I was about ready to walk into the middle and say, "What's up, Maverick Center?" There was a short or something happened with the electrical that shut the pay-per-view just down. So we sat for 42 minutes, and that was the only thing that was major and serious I think that we've had all year long. So if that's the only thing that happened, I mean, it probably was great because a lot of people don't show up to fights until later on. So it was kind of cool. They showed up and they're like, "Oh, all right, we're here for the first fight." So that was cool to have the fans there. But if that's the only thing that we had going on, then I mean, you could say progression, but thankful too for the whole year, because everybody's on board to make it a great promotion. But again, bring in the best fighters that we can, so we can get them out away from our promotion and go big and go huge, but also make our promotion big and make it a known place for fighters to want to come here. I mean, it's great for us to send fighters out, but let's bring fighters in. We had a couple from Florida. We've had one from Chicago, Illinois. They're coming in from everywhere. A lot of them are coming from Portland, Oregon. So, I mean, if we get our name out there, I think we were just voted the top in the West. Is it the far West? I guess.
I saw that.
I don't remember what the post was, but
I think it was in the West.
Yeah,
the promotion.
That's right. The West region or something like that, where we were second to a promotion that's been there for many years, and that's cool. That's awesome. Let's go get number one, though. And it might take a while with that promotion in front of us, but it's all about the fighters and what promotions we can get them through and get them to the big show.
No, that's awesome. And is that kind of like your guys' goal as a promotion? Obviously, you want to promote yourselves and you want to promote your brand, but is it a priority of your guys is to make sure that these fighters move on to bigger promotions and to such as Bellator or PFL or the UFC?
Yeah, it's something where, because they can train here in Utah, and a lot of fighters will stick with their own gyms, but at the same time, if they have the opportunity where somebody sees a good Fierce show but sees this fighter on that show that's been going to town for 3 years trying to get his shot in the big show, and somebody says, "Hey, fly him out here for a 6-month camp and let's get him prepared and ready," I think that's everybody's goal, is to see where we can take even outside of Fierce, any other promotion in the States or around the world. Your goal is to be able to brag about that fighter and put up a belt in your gym from back in the day when he was in our gym. He's a UFC fighter now. But I think as it's progressing and we're getting to be a bigger show and we're selling seats and filling that crowd, of course we want to see Fierce, the promotion and the brand, go as big and as bold as we can. It not only helps our promotion out, but it helps put a bigger platform. It gives us a chance to say, "Hey, Dana, we're over here, buddy. Remember us over here?" And he'll be like, "Yep, you guys are only 6 hours away. Let's go to a Fierce show and scope out some fighters." So if it's 6 hours from Vegas, is that right?
Yeah, it's right around there.
It's closer than you would
It's
think.
close enough, Dana. Yeah, so
Dana's gonna be watching.
yeah, so it'll be, I was telling him on the other podcast, I had met Dana White at a rock concert, so I'll get him back. Yeah, it was just local down in Salt Lake. Yeah, at Des Rocks. It was a cool little concert, and so I'll get him back here. We'll get him back.
Were you able to have like any sort of conversation with him? Oh, what was that like? Because we love Dana White here.
Yeah, it was about rock and roll.
He terrifies us, but yeah.
He's an intimidating man. He knows his stuff. He knows how to get it done. But it was really, I asked him just what he was there for, because I knew he was coming from the East Coast, and he goes, yeah, we heard Des Rocks was in town, and we're just going to fly in and check it out, and then I'm going to head right back to Vegas, fly back to Vegas after it's done. And he just sat there and, yeah, it just watched the show, and we were all up in the front, and we really only talked about rock and roll. He said he's a big fan of Des Rocks, and we talked about music more than the fight, so it was really neat. It was really cool. But yeah, somehow I got to tag him in there, and that was right. But he had been to Utah to discuss the fights that you guys went to for that Usman fight, and so he had already met Blake, who's he's our John Attic guy for Fierce. He's on the commentating team. Blake knows exactly what he's doing. He brought a microphone and went to the media day there and got an interview with Dana, and it kind of started from there. So it's in his ears. Fierce is in his ears, and we'll make it in front of him, cage side, and I'll get him a bag of popcorn and hang out with him. So we'll see. I don't know.
Well, it definitely seems like Fierce is trending in the right direction. It's trending up, and I think you're a major part of that. So we really appreciate you, sitting down and talking to, us. We really appreciate that. I guess, Kellen, do you have anything?
Yeah, I just have one more question.
I got a question for you guys too after you're done.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put you guys on the spot.
It's our turn.
Just one more question for you from me. I follow you on social media, and one thing I've noticed is that you always post at the end, do what you love what you do.
Yeah.
And it seems like that's a motto that you live by. Can you kind of go into details as to why you take that approach?
I don't remember where I first heard it. Well, I shouldn't say first heard it, because that's a phrase that everybody's really heard before at some point in their life. But it was when I moved down here from Wyoming to Utah, and that was when I was becoming an insurance agent. And and you're going out and selling, you can have the ups and downs, and you can be told no on insurance. Like, I don't want to buy it from you. It's good. So I had to tell myself, am I doing something that I love? Like, am I actually loving this, or am I just doing it for a job? And it also it trailed into the guitars, the drums. Like, if I'm going to go play a song, is it something that I love, and that's something that's just going to take me into a whole different world during this song? And I just take that kind of, and I'm trying to give you guys the most motivational speech right now, but really I put it on that post so I can see for myself every day to make sure and do that. Because there are days where I'm looking at that post and I'm like, you know what, I'm not having fun today. But if I post that and with a good song or with a fierce clip, something, it's like, yeah, I'm having fun. So it's kind of more of a reminder for me. It's great to put it on every single post and blast it out there, or make some noise, putting that phrase everywhere, every post I have. But a lot of times the things I post isn't for anybody else. A lot of times it's for me. It's entertainment and it's fun for everybody, but sometimes it's just me that has to be reminded of it. So I don't think everybody's got to have that. If you're not doing anything that you love, then you got to think hard about what you're doing, I guess, and figure it out. But I don't know. It's tough though. Easier said than done. So I don't know. But, yeah.
For sure. So you said you had a question for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to see for sure what you guys thought of the Neil Hupsing. No, just kidding. Well, I'll tag him on this or something. I'll have to mess with him. But no, Neil. So these guys, you guys are from Star Valley, and my dad is from Star Valley. So this is really cool, and we are probably somehow like best buddies from way back in the day, and we probably played on the softball fields there, and your dad and my dad probably golfed at some point, and probably it's pretty crazy. But as fans, I'm gonna ask you guys, and you haven't, it might be tough, you haven't seen it live at the Maverick Center, you've seen it live at the Challenger Series. Have you seen it on pay-per-view yet? No,
we haven't
okay.
seen it pay-per-view yet.
So just anything that you think, you probably don't have any criticism or feedback, which is good, but like anything that you guys want to see as fans, if you're going to a local show, whether it's back at the Challenger Series at the high school, or if it's in the Maverick Center, what do you guys need? What do you guys want as fans? And that could be something dealing with the fighters or just as a promotion. And that's putting you on the spot, but
I like this. It's our turn to actually think.
Flip the script a little bit.
because it helps us. It helps us be a promotion and for those fighters, man, for sure.
Yeah, for me, I think you actually already answered something that I really like is what you said you'll be doing in the Idaho Falls fight is announcing the fighters' names right as they're squaring off, because like I said before, that's like sometimes my favorite moment of the fight, because it's Bruce Buffer did it for me, but just that moment where they're about to face off and announcing it, that's the greatest part of the fight in my opinion. Yeah. So I guess I'll try to think of criticism. I'll pass the microphone to Kellen for a second, but I'll say
that's okay.
Yeah, I'll say I think that's the right direction.
I like it though. I like that because it gets. I think the fighters, they're able to stare each other down now, and they're able to be like, okay, it's on right now. And if I can, that's going to be a tough job for me to do to back Bruce Buffer up and fill his shoes, but I'm ready for it. I think I'm ready to get up in each fighter's face and give it to the crowd and make sure that, like, hey, it's co-main right now. It's the main event. It's the opening night. I might lose my voice on the very first one. If you guys are going to tune in the pay-per-view, you'll be like, oh, there goes his voice. But that's okay because I'm still going to get animated and energized for him. So I like it. All right, what do you got?
I don't know if I have any criticism. I think we kind of talked about this already. I want to see the sport grow in the region.
Yeah.
And I feel like fierce fighting is a huge part of that. Awesome. I think having a promotion here in Utah that goes around in the region and puts on these excellent shows, because that's what I love so much about mixed martial arts and these fights it's not just an athletic event, it's a show. Yeah. It's a production. And to be able to gauge that interest here in Utah and be able to grow that fan base, I think that's going to be awesome. For me personally as a fan, because Brady and I, we can talk MMA for hours. Yeah. But there's just not very many people to talk about it to.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that as the sport keeps growing in popularity, you're going to see more and more people that are going to be taking an interest, and it's going to become a lot more conversational. And so I think what fierce fighting is doing, and not only that, but part of the reason why we wanted to start a podcast was because we felt like there wasn't a lot of clean content in terms of MMA promotion and MMA podcast, which fierce fighting, from what our experience was that it was a good atmosphere. Mm-hmm. It didn't feel like it had to be vulgar or over the top. And so I think that, combining the culture here in Utah with the culture of MMA, I think that's going to be awesome. So we're super excited for what Fierce Fighting's been doing, and I'm really excited to see how it grows as a promotion and to be able to watch some of these fighters that go from fighting here in Utah in the Maverick Center to fighting in the Apex or fighting in T-Mobile. And so there's a lot of positive things that we've been able to see as a result of the efforts of all you guys at Fierce Fighting. Cool. And that's why we wanted to have you on the podcast and to talk to you, because we just feel like there's so many good things going on with Fierce Fighting right now. And in the next couple of years, it's not going to be known as just a regional promotion, but we think it's really going to be something that's heavily connected with the UFC and something that is heard in the ears of, thousands and if not millions of MMA fans.
Viewers, yeah. That's the goal, man. And even we're just one little guy right now in Utah, but we're about to make it big and keep it going strong. And so I love it. Like even tag teaming with, like there's Fusion up there in Montana, tag teaming with all the ones here in Utah, up in Idaho as well. It's not necessarily that one has to be the biggest or the greatest. It's again just bringing the fan base in. I mean, everybody can go to a UFC pay-per-view fight or watch it at home or do whatever, but going out and actually taking the wife or a girlfriend or boyfriend out on a date and go to the fights, like you said, it's a show. It's an entertainment. It's entertainment. It's not just going and, oh, these guys are brawling. It's an event, and it's something to go and do. You can get your food and get your sweatshirts, and it's an experience. And the more that people realize that, they're gonna be like, all right, it's date night. Let's go out to the fights. And I think that's a brilliant thing. If you're also, these fighters are gonna go fight up in Montana, but then they're gonna come back down here in the next 2 weeks. Get them fighting at anywhere they can, any promotion they can, get them fighting. And just as we go, we're just gonna keep putting it up as a platform for them and make them go as far as they can. So I don't know, I love it. But thanks for letting me flip the script on you guys.
Yeah, for sure. But I think you guys said it best, so I won't add too much to that. But check out the pay-per-view in Idaho Falls on Friday, or on next Saturday if you can't be there. And I think you've definitely sold me on it. So if I can't make it, I will definitely be buying that pay-per-view. So,
perfect, man. Yeah, just fiercefightingchampionship.com. And if you're going, get the tickets. It's on there too. You just click on a fighter's face and you get the tickets. But yeah, the pay-per-view will be on there. So
Yeah. And then before we close, just so that people can follow you on social media, can they find you on Instagram or?
yeah, I don't have Snapchat or anything, but I don't have TikTok. Sorry, Zach, don't have TikTok. He always says I need to get a TikTok and I could make millions, and that's cool. But I'm like, are you making fun of me for that? But I don't know. TikTok would be cool. But I've got Instagram. It's just my last name, Hoopes, HOOPES.Jackson, JACKSON. You guys probably know another Jackson Hoopes that spells it with an X from Star. He would have been older than me even. So
Yeah, I've
heard the name.
Yeah.
it's with an X. But anyway, sorry, JACKSON. And then Jackson Hoopes on Facebook. I'm there. You can pretty much go to the Fierce Fighting Championship, find them on Instagram too, and you'll probably see me tagged in there somewhere on a post or something goofy. But yeah, feel free to follow me. And if I'll always do fun videos. If you're a sponsor, we also have Mandy Biesinger. She is a stud, and she works with sponsors, businesses to get you hooked up with Fierce Fighting, get you a suite to hang out with. But we'll do crazy fun videos and promote your business. I mean, we'll go to your guys' college and we'll hang out there. And what school? UVU? Is that where you're at?
I go to UVU.
I'm a BYU.
BYU. There you go. So we'll get you hanging out with Zeke and his family, all those BYU guys, the big boys, and that just anything that you guys want to tag me on or follow me on, we'll just bring you in and make a community together, make some noise.